Hello, everybody. This is Skip Alzheimer. Welcome to the AV Geeks Lunchtime Streaming Show, where we watch old 16mm films from the 1970s about how to install a septic system on the side of a hill. So when we scan that film, we used a scanner that didn't have a sound head, so that's just visuals. And I know you're clamoring to hear that soundtrack. And so maybe we will hunt it down, we will rescan it so that you can hear. And maybe this will answer the questions that you have about why are they installing a septic system right near that body of water? What's going on with that? Sometimes the films we show answer questions, and sometimes they just bring up more questions. But I'm happy that you're here. And let's learn about nest eggs. Enjoy.
This is an egg, and this is you. It's also me. In fact, it's us. It's all of us. The story I want to tell you is about the egg and us, what kind of an egg it is, and why it's important to us. This is a very special kind of egg. It's a nest egg. And a nest egg is a great thing to have around. You put it away, and when you need it, there it is. It has a way of hatching out into wonderful things, like a trip abroad, or a new home, or a college education for the youngsters. And there's a very special thing about this nest egg. It's made up of United States savings bonds. More than 40 million Americans own nest eggs like this. 40 million Americans have chosen to put their money into U.S. savings bonds because they have faith in them, because they believe in the nation's future. Busy and prosperous, with a growing economy based solidly on a sound dollar and on competitive enterprise, free to make the most of the country's immense natural resources. Out of the mountains and streams, the hills and plains and forests of our continent, we are producing power and raw materials in such abundance as the world has never seen. With these, we have built an industrial establishment of tremendous and constantly increasing productivity. We are turning out the biggest volume ever of goods and services. We are continually adding to our productive capacity, too. More factories and more machinery. More people are at work today, earning bigger take-home pay than ever before in our history. Family incomes have never been higher. And what's more, people are confident that this prosperity is healthy and is going to continue. They know that our economy has made its greatest gains in these last few years, since inflation was checked. And they have faith in the future, theirs and the nation's. They show it in many ways. For example, look at home building. Last year alone, over 1.25 million new housing units were built in this country. People are having more children, bigger families. More youngsters born in recent years have been second, third, or fourth-born children, especially among middle and upper income levels, a reversal of an historic trend. Finally, and most importantly, people are saving more. The nation's nest egg is growing. Today, people have over $235 billion put away in bank deposits, in securities, and in currency. Savings are increasing because Americans know that the dollar is sound. They are confident that they will be able to buy just as much with it tomorrow as they can buy today. And these savings, piling up because people believe in our country's future, have the effect of making that future all the more secure. Here is a vast reservoir of purchasing power. Because of it, people can afford to buy goods as they need them. They can plan ahead for homes, for cars, for many things. This, in turn, means that industry can plan ahead, knowing that there will be a continuing market for what it produces. Out of these savings, furthermore, comes the financing necessary to enable established industries to expand or new ones to open for business. As long as people put their surplus money into savings or invest it so that it is producing more goods and services, it helps keep the wheels of industry turning and helps stabilize the economy. It is when there is too much spending money around, competing for too few goods, that the price of everything goes up and the value of the dollar goes down. That is why savings are of such vital importance to the nation, and one kind in particular, United States savings bonds. U.S. savings bonds are one of America's most important institutions. They are not new. During the war, people like you and me bought and held some $30 billion worth of E-bonds. These helped to pay for the planes and ships and munitions that were the price of victory. They did a tremendous amount to absorb surplus money at a time when consumer goods were scarce, money was plentiful, and inflation was a constant danger. Then came the end of the war. The experts had figured out that with the end of the war, most of us would stop buying bonds and cash in those we had. Instead, people held on to most of those they owned and went right ahead buying more. They had caught on to the nest egg idea, and they liked it. All this meant that of the $275 billion of national debt, incurred largely as the cost of winning the war, a healthy percentage could be placed with individuals on a long-term basis. Less needed to be concentrated in commercial banks. The effect was to promote economic stability. Today, this is even more important because we must maintain great military strength. Currently, we are spending for national defense about 2/3 of the government's operating budget, and this is a tremendous figure. We are constantly trying to buy more security for less money and to improve our outlook for peace through diplomacy. Nevertheless, our military expenditures will continue high. When this results in a deficit, it adds to the size of our national debt. When there is a surplus, the national debt can be reduced. Meantime, this national debt must be managed, and managing the national debt is big business. Interest payments on it alone amount to $200 a second, $12,000 a minute. It is vital that a debt of this proportion be managed soundly so as not to upset the country's economy. Who owns the national debt has a lot to do with our economic stability. The government naturally must get a great deal of what it needs from the nation's commercial banks. But for the dollars it borrows from the banks, it must exchange its own securities. On these, the banks can then make loans and extend credit. Under certain circumstances, even up to 5 or 6 times the value of the securities. For all practical purposes, the effect of this credit extension is to increase the country's supply of money. And when the supply of money begins to outstrip our productive capacity, look out for trouble. So whenever it can, the government borrows from other sources that are not inflationary. By far the most important of these are you and me and about 165 million others like us. Individual citizens who are willing to lend some of their surplus money on a long-term basis at excellent return. Out of a total national debt of $275 billion, some $65 billion is owned by you and me and people like us. And every penny of this is anti-inflationary, helping to maintain the sound dollar. The sound dollar, which is the basic essential of a healthy economy. A lot of other investors outside the banks, corporations, insurance companies, foundations, and so forth, hold $70 billion more. Much of it on a long-term, non-inflationary basis, too. Another $50 billion is held in the government's own investment accounts, such as Social Security and Veterans Insurance. That leaves some $65 billion that the banks own, plus an additional $25 billion held by the Federal Reserve System. It is important that this proportion of bank ownership be kept in line if the dollar is to remain sound. The best way to do this is to sell more U.S. savings bonds to more people. That's why the United States Savings Bond Program means so much to every man, woman, and child among us. Our present standards and our future security depend on it in larger degree than most of us realize. But those trained in economic matters realize it, and that's why so many of the nation's business, labor, and agricultural leaders, including bankers themselves, are solidly behind the U.S. Savings Bond Program. Thousands of banks across the land are working actively to promote the government's bond program. They sell millions of savings bonds cheerfully because they know it's good for the nation. In addition, 40,000 companies, large and small, have adopted the payroll savings plan for their employees. The roster of these companies is an honor roll of the best in American business and industry. Through this plan, millions of working men and women buying bonds regularly are piling up nest eggs, ensuring their own security and peace of mind for tomorrow. One among the 40,000 companies is the Burroughs Corporation. Its president, John S. Coleman, is one of the sincerest believers in the benefits of the savings bond program.
I am convinced that the United States Savings Bond Program is one of the most important forces in our economy making for a sound dollar. This sound dollar is the economic bedrock our enterprise stands on. Anything that helps keep it secure is greatly to our advantage. With the sound dollar firmly maintained, we in business can concentrate on our main tasks, on making better products and competing in the nation's marketplace. We can go ahead with confidence, developing new business, expanding plant capacity, planning for a future we can count on, creating new jobs that will be stable and lasting. Because the United States Savings Bond Program is helping to maintain this indispensable condition for prosperity, we stand completely behind it. But beyond this, there is another reason for our belief in it. All business management has a direct interest in helping employees to save. Any man who has a nest egg put away is bound to have a certain peace of mind. He feels easier about his family and freer of worries about the future. He is a happier man at home and at work. So it is a matter of great satisfaction to us at Burroughs that 80% of our employees are systematically saving out of their pay through the U.S. Savings Bond Plan. I might single out one example at random of what the payroll plan can do for a man. The person I'll take, though I could have taken a dozen others, is Norman Jensen. He makes precision parts for one of our new electronic business machines, the Burroughs Series G high-speed printing and punch card accounting machine.
I've been buying bonds on the payroll plan for about 15 years now, and I want to tell you it makes a big difference in my life, to me and my family. This is my family here. That's my wife, a picture of my daughter. She's 13 now, and my son, 9. And this is kind of an old snapshot. Kids are a lot bigger now. Now about what the payroll plan has meant to us. Look, this is our house. It's over in Staten Island. We bought it about 8 years ago. We wanted a place of our own. I had the bonds ready to make the down payment, and so we bought it. Then I used some more of my bonds to make improvements on the place. Just lately, for instance, I installed a new heating system. Now, I've got a nice property that is worth a lot more than when I bought it. I got it pretty well paid for by now, but I'm still on the payroll plan, and I'm going to stay on it. The kids are growing up fast. Ellen is 13, Peter is 9. It won't be long before they'll be going to college age. I intend to see that they get a good college education, in both of them. My savings bonds are going to pay for that, the way they paid for so many of the things in our family that we've enjoyed for the past 15 years.
A house, home improvements, Education. These are just a few of the meaningful advantages of the United States Savings Bond Program. By joining this program, Burroughs people like Mr. Jensen and people everywhere are building financial security for themselves. At the same time, they're helping to promote the economic well-being of the country as a whole.
Business leaders like Mr. Coleman, hundreds of them in influential places throughout the land, have helped to make the United States Savings Bond Program the economic asset of the nation that it is today. But an even greater part has been played by the thousands of volunteer workers in every state and every community. The men and women who, in face-to-face selling in shops and mills, in banks and schools, in factories and offices, have sold billions of dollars worth of savings bonds, motivated purely by a sense of civic responsibility. But for all that has been done by those who have given their time and their energy, more remains to be done. The United States Savings Bond Program needs our help, your help. Your recommendation to a fellow employee or a neighbor can mean a lot. And in giving it, you can be sure that you are recommending one of the best investments possible. You will be helping to justify the confidence of all of us in the American future. This confidence, backed up by millions of individual nest eggs, is perhaps the most dynamic single element in our economic life. It is because we believe in the American future that our towns are growing and businesses expanding. It is why we are owning more and pleasanter homes and having larger families, why more children are getting more and better education, and why there is more and better opportunity day by day for those growing up. With your help, the United States Savings Bond Program will continue making its vital contribution to the nation's economic progress, helping to guarantee that our American life shall long endure in peace, in well-being, and in freedom. So, for the best things in your life, be ready with United States Savings Bonds.
All right, you get the point. Since it's not really divisible by 200 or 100, I just showed it. Thank you, Kevin, for the $12.34. That will go towards paying rent for storage units. Anyways, yeah, looking at my spreadsheet, and I'll try to share this with you guys to kind of see. Let's see, how can we do this? Some of you, yeah. So here's the spreadsheet that we've been keeping relatively up to date. This is our 1234th episode. We've been doing since mid-March of 2020, I think. Is that right? And this, The Egg and Us was our 5,770th film. We've watched over 5,000 films. That is phenomenal. I mean, there's been some duplication in there and stuff that some of my favorites that I re-show, but man, that's a lot of stuff. And you guys have been there for us. So thank you. This is why we do what we do. I mean, certainly we collect films and store them and pull them out occasionally for stock footage or for researchers, but really showing them to you at lunch has been this unexpected, wonderful thing. So thank you so much for being there. We could not have done this without you. Let's learn about telegraph technology. Enjoy.
Even before the familiar telegraph key came this first Morse instrument, whose spark set fire to the world of communication. Sure, Western Union was boots and saddles, the golden spike in the railroad tie, singing wires, and the growing pains of a great nation. But everybody knows that Western Union did a job. The telegraph wire tied the cattle markets of Kansas to the tables of the East, hitched the cotton mills of New England to the southern plantations and the New York cutting tables. Other methods of communication were slow and tedious. The telegraph was the only means of rapid communication. It was direct, it was fast. It kept pace with the nation's expanding frontiers.
All late, what do you read? What do you read? All late, they're all late. What do you read? What's your paper, mister?
Globe.
Here you are.
Hey, what's this, Joe?
What's what?
Blank pages. Where's the news?
Huh? What do you know? They're all blank.
Sorry, Joe. Sorry, Joe's customer. It wouldn't have happened if we hadn't arranged it. There's plenty of news today, but it's still in the making.
All right, madam, we'll send that out right away. I don't mean to be personal, sir, but congratulations.
Oh, thanks.
Did you mean to say whether these twins were boys or girls, sir?
Oh, how could I have forgotten that? They're boys.
And you want this sent as a regular telegram, of course.
Oh, sure. This is news.
Well, who else would like to get the good news?
Oh, this goes to about 8 different people. I have a lot more writing to do here.
That won't be necessary. You just put down your list of addresses, and we'll see that they all get the message.
Oh, swell.
Sure, Fred Brown, twins are news. Western Union is about to make it official. And while you think of all the people who should know about Alice and the twins, hundreds of other telegrams are being sent and received in other ways in the 10-block business area around you. High above the city, a busy executive receives a telegram by desk fax, a compact telegraph machine that operates by facsimile and brings message transmission right to his desk. places his reply on a cylinder, and with a push of a button, the reply goes direct to Western Union in his own handwriting. An ultra-modern telegraph method that is close to magic. 50 stories down, Western Union serves another man whose job demands fast and accurate communication.
Hello, Western Union. I'd like to send a telegram. Mr. J.L. Roberts, Tompkins Structural Steel Company, Templeton, Ohio. Construction here, ahead of schedule. Urgent, you wire immediately. Earliest arrival, structural steel.
While urgent words speed from an engineer to his home office, a steady flow of words flashes to Western Union from the communications room of a large business firm. A battery of teleprinters handles swiftly the mass of urgent detail behind the daily operations of a major business. To save time, to pack more hours into the day, to get on fast, orderly record the many details of a busy enterprise. No less important is telegraph service to the smaller business, whose need for rapid communications is well served by the familiar call box. At the turn of the handle, the summons arrives at the branch office recorded on tape. The experienced clerk knows at a glance where the call originated and dispatches a messenger to the customer who is telegraphing an order for a 20-ton crane. And all the while, people come and go in the telegraph hub of the neighborhood.
Say, how does this sound? Caught surprise shore leave in big town. Caught short of cash. 25 would help. Please telegraph care of Western Union. Thanks. Love to all. Bob.
Great.
All right, thank you very much, and we'll rush these out right away.
Good.
Oh, and good luck.
Thanks.
Okay, let's send it.
It's a typical day at Western Union. Behind the counter, the mechanical nerves of the system change words to holes on tape, and the holes on tape to electrical impulses speeding over the wires. Here is the urgent order for the 20-ton crane. To the Western Union operator, impartially and impersonally sending an almost endless flow of words, the contrast between 6-pound babies and 20-ton cranes passes by almost without notice. Now the operator starts the stortgram. A quick tap of the keyboard, and another. Punch the key signals that will guide the message automatically to its destination. Now it's gone. Already arriving at Syracuse, high-speed message center for the territory in which the telegram originated, and a link in the chain of mechanized centers throughout the country. Good news travels fast, and with the speed of light, this good news, now in Syracuse, is automatically being flashed onward to St. Louis, message center for the delivery office, guided only by the 2 key signals punched in New York, swiftly, accurately, practically non-stop, along with thousands of other telegrams coursing through these wires, flashing through in round-the-clock succession. And now, over the high-speed transmitter, the message appears before the operator in St. Louis, on both printed and perforated tape. As it arrives, she notes the destination, and click, with the push of a button, the words are on their way to Cumberland, Missouri. Here they are arriving in printed form, ready to be gummed down on the familiar yellow blank. A happy group of words, announcing a double blessing to waiting grandparents. Yes, sir. Twins, 6 pounds each. Alice doing fine. Think I'll recover. Love, Fred. It seems to take longer to tell than it takes to do, this passage of a message by Western Union. And at the very same time we follow this message, the order for the 20-ton crane has reached its final destination. Preston, California, thousands of miles farther away. Reached it and already delivered, because distance means nothing when it's at the end of a telegraph circuit. The sailor's request for shore leave money from Dad gone. Off at the same time as the telegrams about 6-pound twins and 20-ton cranes. Delivered in Bassett, Maryland, by one of Western Union's newest developments, Telecar, a modern message center on wheels, which receives telegrams by radio in facsimile while cruising in outlying areas. Virtually a telegraph center at the doorstep. And in less time than would be imagined, the sailor will have the money he wants through the speed magic of a telegraphic money order. This is the network of interconnecting high-speed message centers, linking together the vast Western Union system from coast to coast. And from the great major message centers spring a multitude of connecting circuits, directly linking thousands of towns and cities, large and small, throughout our country, with this vast, ultra-modern automatic telegraph system, the finest, fastest in the world. Yes, we call it Speedway for words. A speedway extending far and wide within our shores and even beyond, to and from any part of the globe. Meanwhile, a typical day continues, from babies to butter. Back in Cumberland, the supermarket chain wants 500 cases of butter now, at the market price now. Trained fingers fly over the keyboard. The tape flows, and instantly the order is fed into the great automatic network. In a matter of minutes, the butter order is on the floor of a large produce exchange. 70 million housewives are concerned with every move in this marketplace, for the price tags of the nation's grocery shelves are determined here. 500 cases, 95. The sale goes up on the big board. And over the Western Union circuits, the transaction flashes instantly to produce growers and shippers across the land. In every type of marketplace, from butter to bonds, Western Union records the nation's sense of values. To provide service to as many as possible, today's Western Union reaches the American people in different ways. Those in small communities may know Western Union service through its agencies and railway stations, like this, where a young lady sends a meet me telegram. The busy housewife, to send a greeting or congratulation message, may call for telegraph service and simply say, "Charge it to my phone, please." The hurried man who wants to talk away his telegram and get going sends a reservation telegram from a convenient direct coin box cabinet. The late traveler who finds his day too short for all his business telegraphs for a morning appointment, calling on Western Union at his hotel to work for him while he rests. And here the occasional user of telegrams, who lives in communities away from the center of things, knows the dependable local drugstore as Western Union's representation. To millions of sports fans, Western Union is the answer to what's the score? Wherever the bat cracks against the ball, wherever gridiron greats collide, wherever big-time punches fly, Western Union is as much a part of the sports scene as the umpires and referees. Whatever the news, wherever it happens, Western Union speeds the story to its national press centers, serving the world's top newspapers with lightning-fast reports geared to press deadlines. Wherever disaster strikes, Western Union is on the job to restore contact, bring word to and from the stricken, and marshal relief for the hungry and homeless. In scores of crises in the nation's history, the copper wires of Western Union have been worth their weight in gold. Of all the many places where Western Union serves the American people, it is perhaps here, where representatives speak and act for 150 million citizens, that Western Union serves the greatest number. In the Senate press room, correspondents compile the daily hard copy record of significant speeches, ballots, legislation, and committee action. Almost as soon as it happens, through on-the-spot facilities, Western Union delivers this record to front pages in the free world. But there are more than outgoing stories. Western Union in Washington is a funnel into which Americans pour their messages of support or protest to their leaders. The opinions of grassroots voters who rightly believe that the elected man is a public servant. When great issues are at stake, the people speak their minds in a flood of telegrams that may total tens of thousands in one 24-hour period. Through its high-speed centers and other facilities, Western Union stands ready to carry far greater traffic than the nation demands. One section of its system operates by microwave beam transmission. From towers like this in Washington, more than 2,000 telegrams can be sent and received simultaneously on a single radio beam, traveling with the speed of light through other towers strategically located along the route. How else does this Western Union of today serve? Specially designed private wire systems when there is a need for communications in volume, such as the private bank wire, interconnecting 188 banks in 54 cities, providing direct, immediate, and confidential communications for all banks on the network. Here is an outstanding example of modern telegraphy serving the nation's great industries. Yes, Western Union does more than serve the individual 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. At all times, this battery of teleprinters presents a permanent record of the origin and destination of every message exchanged over the private wire system. Contracts, confirmations, instructions, purchase orders, financial transactions. Not one detail has been left hanging in the air, filed in memory, or left to chance. It's all in black and white. In the Pentagon, brain center of America's military might, the permanent aspect of telegraphic communication conforms to the traditional demand of the military for realistic records. The Army and Air Force use private telegraph systems to coordinate their vast organizations operated by specially trained service personnel. Theirs are among the greatest communication centers ever designed and serviced by Western Union.
Hey, they're all here, they're all late. What do you read? They're all here, hey! Hey, what do you read?
Hi, Joe.
Hi.
Yeah, that's more like it, Joe. It's got news.
Yeah. I can't figure out why that last edition was blank. A break, I guess.
It's all there now, all right. The things that happen to people and the things that people made to happen. There's just one blank space in this edition of the paper, but that will be filled in the next edition, because the story is happening right now. A reporter is taking notes in the research center of Western Union, and what he is looking at will make the story that will fill the last empty space in the newspaper. The story is a familiar one to Western Union, a new one to the reporter. It's the story of an endless search for improved facilities to serve the communications needs of America. The news peg of the story is one of the finds of that search. High-speed facsimile transmission and reception of both words and pictures. In a matter of seconds, 3,500 words are sent and received. Here is a look into the future of communications. A long way from the early key that clacked out dot and dash messages. Here is modern telegraphy at work, sending and receiving in facsimile, placing all of a vast system at the user's elbow. Here is telegraphy today, hurtling millions of words across thousands of miles automatically, guided and controlled by the magic brain of an almost infallible system. Speeding messages to destinations with just the push of a button, to better serve America everywhere, to bring distant friends and business customers within arm's reach through the swiftness of the yellow blank. A long way from the old hand-to-hand relay from point to point, slow and at the mercy of human error. Here is the thin white ribbon of words, unchangeable, accurate, moving the message it carries lightning fast. Visible transcript of the sender's thoughts, actual record of what has been said. Here is telegraphy on wheels, roaming the streets of outlying districts to bring telegraph service right to the front door. The radio beam tower and its amazing capacity of 2,000 telegrams at a time on a single radio beam. That's a long way from the one telegram on one wire of a century ago. From this telegraph center of the world, headquarters of Western Union in New York, comes a telegram for America. Western Union is proud of its record through the first 100 years. A record of service and progress, which, in the needs of today and plans for tomorrow, keeps pace with the tempo of a fast-moving age.
Sorry, I was chewing my sandwich. I had a whole mouthful of a delicious panini sandwich that I made. It is lunch, after all. I mean, come on. All right. I have another film for you, but it's... Do I have another film for you? Did I not count this out right? Okay. There's this one. It's newsreel. It's 21 minutes long, so it's going to go past our normal time. But, you know, let's see what things are looking like in the 50s in March, thanks to the news magazine of the screen. Enjoy.
Once again hit the road toward Korea's capital city of Seoul. On the way, American infantrymen fight through towns like the rail center of Pyongyang, south of Seoul. This time the advance is different from previous Allied attacks. Led by tanks standing deep into the Chinese communist line, searching out the Reds and the rice paddies. The goal of the United Nations Command this time is not to capture towns, but to track down the enemy and destroy him. If this war of maneuver gains ground, so much the better. And gain ground we do. UN units hurling back Chinese counterattacks reach the blasted bridges along the vital Han River across from Seoul. For the fourth time since the war's start, the city of Seoul comes under attack. An enemy-held radio tower is clearly visible through the artillery bombardment. The offensive is backed up from bases in Japan, where flying boxcars of the Combat Cargo Command take to the air to drop supplies just as though they were coming off a factory assembly line. From the air are playing an increasingly large part as the battle in Korea becomes a war of maneuver. For as a result of the strategic decision that it is more important to destroy the enemy than to take ground, the battlefront shifts rapidly, and it's easier to supply a changing front from the air than from the ground. Where the enemy can't be destroyed from land, he's hit by sea. The super dreadnought Missouri, which has been off Korea since early in the campaign, leads a night to dawn naval bombardment. Mighty Mo's huge 16-inch guns find their mark on the east coast of North Korea. Back on the ground, United Nations troops pursue the enemy around the clock and in every kind of weather. The Allies bring their heaviest guns and equipment to bear on the job at hand. In the assault, launched right from the bivouac areas, GIs carry on normal duties almost under the mouths of the cannon. to see for himself the progress of the battle comes the United Nations Commander-in-Chief, General MacArthur. He congratulates Allied commanders, including Ralph Monclar, leader of a French battalion, who demoted himself from full general to lieutenant colonel to fight in Korea. Watching the progress of the war of maneuver, General MacArthur, with Lieutenant General Ridgway, sees the United Nations achieve its best successes since Red China intervened in Korea. Premier René Pleven, who flew to New York, arrives in Washington by train, where with Ambassador Henri Bonnet, he is greeted by President Truman and U.S. cabinet members. After 4 days of conferences on mutual problems in the Far East and Europe, American and French officials announce complete agreement, and Pleven's mission is a sweeping success. In Tokyo, a 200-man honor guard comes to attention for an important occasion, General MacArthur's 71st birthday. Mrs. MacArthur watches as her husband, in excellent health, despite the rigors of the occupation and the immense task of commanding UN forces in Korea, inspects his elite guard. Celebrating the day as usual by working, MacArthur declares that America can never turn back in the fight against communism. Rio de Janeiro, Getulio Vargas, Brazil's chief of state from 1930 to 1945, is hailed by his enthusiastic followers who have this time elected him president in an overwhelming victory at the free polls. Ambassador Johnson with Nelson Rockefeller are among dignitaries of 52 nations who see President Vargas sign the oath of office. Outgoing President General Dutra gives his successor the traditional sash of office as Brazil welcomes Vargas back to his old job.
Today, in an hour of national need, the American Red Cross is responding to the call. On the field of battle in Korea, whole blood and plasma collected by the Red Cross are saving countless lives. In hundreds of blood centers like this one, the Red Cross collects blood for emergency use in battle or in a disaster at home. Today, most of it goes to Korea, rushed by plane to the armed forces. At home, the Red Cross has another important job, helping the staff of veterans' hospitals carry out the tremendous work of rebuilding the strength and spirit of the wounded. The Red Cross recreational and welfare programs now serve over 110,000 war veterans. When disaster strikes in any U.S. community, the Red Cross is organized to provide immediate aid to the victims. 11,000 mobile first aid units can be rushed anywhere to meet domestic emergencies. 250,000 people receive such Red Cross help each year. When a flood leaves thousands homeless, trained volunteers of the Red Cross move in. Months after such disasters are no longer news, the Red Cross may still be on hand to help in the rehabilitation of individuals and families. With the threat of an atomic or other attack, the Red Cross takes over a huge responsibility in civil defense. The government has asked the Red Cross to train 20 million people to meet any peril to come. In America's cities, Red Cross classes in every kind of disaster work are training factory, professional, and business workers to care for themselves and others in an emergency. And in small towns and rural areas, millions more are being trained. In the nation's hospitals, the Red Cross is training 100,000 nurses' aides. 750,000 other women are being trained in home nursing. For this young nurse's aide, as for all Americans, the completion of Red Cross training is a moment of pride. United in mercy through the Red Cross, we face a brighter future no matter what may come. What's this, a flying Jeep? No, it's a submarine one. At Marineland, Florida, the Army's jack of all trades goes underwater, and news magazine cameras go along with it. The Jeep's motor breathes through a snorkel snorter extension, whose ingenious valve system keeps water out, but lets air in and releases the exhaust. These tests have a practical purpose. All new Army Jeeps will have waterproof engines and ignition systems to run through water up to their windshields. Trucks, too, go underwater. At nearby Rainbow Springs, Florida, the new Army Ordnance truck, the Rio Eager Beaver, takes to water like a duck. The driver breathes with an underwater lung, and the truck's motor, like the Jeep's, uses the same snorkel snorter arrangement to keep going underwater. The 2.5-ton truck, officially called the M34, has been designed for heavy-duty work, including submersion. It can stay underwater for as long as 4 hours with the motor running. It'll be especially useful in amphibious landings and river crossings, as in Korea. Oops, where'd all that water come from? "40 years of naval aviation history are recalled at Lindbergh Field, San Diego. This 1912 Curtiss-type pusher biplane was built by old-time pilot Will D. Parker, who prepares to hazard life and limb. Pilot Parker, like old-time Navy flyers, gets his report on wind conditions. Contact! And he's off. Parker dazzles attending Navy observers by hitting the remarkable speed of 70 miles per hour. Why, someday the Navy may fly the oceans. Some railroads go from coast to coast, but this one, although it's in perfect operating order, never gets away from home. It's the Union Connecting Railroad, probably the largest zero-gauge model railroad in the world. The UCRR is owned and operated by the New York Society of Model Engineers. The society includes doctors, lawyers, advertising men, almost everybody except railroad men. They've been working on this system for 25 years, and they don't call it finished yet. It takes 100 man-hours of work for each foot of track. The UCRR, on a scale of 1/4 of an inch to a foot, duplicates actual railroad operations, even to round tables and hand cars. Part of our history and of our daily lives, railroading has a powerful lure for most Americans.
President Truman comes to Philadelphia to dedicate the Chapel of the Four Chaplains inside Philadelphia's Baptist Temple, a memorial to 4 heroic men of God, 2 Protestant ministers, a Catholic priest, and a Jewish rabbi. President Truman unveils the mural depicting their self-sacrifice. 8 years ago, when the troop ship Dorchester was torpedoed off Greenland, all 4 chaplains gave their life belts to others and went down with the ship. 10,000 Americans contributed to the chapel. A revolving base has 3 altars. This, for Protestant services, commemorates chaplains George L. Fox and Clark B. Poling. This, for Catholic services, commemorates Father John P. Washington. And this, for Jewish services, commemorates Rabbi Alexander D. Good. The Chapel of the Four Chaplains is truly a sanctuary for brotherhood.
Madison Square Garden, America's best milers compete in the Baxter Mile of the New York Athletic Club Games. The crowd's eyes are on 23-year-old Don Gehrman of Wisconsin. Gehrman, here moving up to first place, has won 37 straight victories over his old rival FBI agent Fred Wilt and all other opponents in this grueling distance. With 4 laps to go, the race falls into the familiar but thrilling pattern of Gehrman first, Wilt second. Now Wilt passes Gehrman, and Don will really have to step to get out in front again. Gehrman is famed for his last-second winning kick that has made him one of the world's great runners, but can he catch Wilt this time? It's neck and neck, stride for stride, down the last 20 yards to the tape. Then Gehrman edges ahead, and it's champion Don Gehrman by the margin of a single stride, again the winner. Don Gehrman sets America's pace in the mile. In the same meet, Yale man Jim Fuchs, already Olympic champion, sets a new world record in his specialty, the shot put. Jim heaves the 16-pound shot farther than it has ever been heaved indoors before. The judges set the mark at 58 feet, 3.5 inches. Jim Fuchs, greatest shot putter in track and field history. The Reverend Robert Richards, an ordained minister of Laverne, California, has long aspired to be the second human being to pole vault past the magic height of 15 feet. Here, a year ago, he thought he had made it, but by error, the bar was half an inch short. Now, in this year's Millrose Games, Richards aims at 15 feet once again. He's over. The bar quivers, but stays put. Richards, successful after 2 years of tireless trying, bounces into the air in triumph. The 24-year-old Richards, who alternates between the pulpit and the pole vault, follows all-time record holder Cornelius Warmerdam in topping the 15-foot mark. Final measurement pegs his leap at 15 feet 1 inch. The Reverend Robert Richards joins the roster of America's track champions. With a great parade in Sydney, the Commonwealth of Australia marks an anniversary. 50 years of dramatic progress since a half-dozen separate colonies joined together in 1901 to form a new nation. Captain Cook, commemorated in this float, claimed this continent for Britain in 1770. Australia has never stopped growing at home or in its worldwide influence on the side of freedom. Australia, with a population today of 8 million, is nearly 3 million square miles in area, just slightly smaller than the continental United States. Australia's first settlers landing during the American Revolution found their new land full of surprises, like the cuddly koala bear, now protected by the government. And the destructive flying fox. Australia's native animals had developed uniquely in the isolation of their continent. Almost a symbol of Australia is the kangaroo. As big as a man, it runs in leaps of up to 20 feet at 40 miles per hour. The Australian countryside, in many places rich and fertile, has today become one of the world's great grazing grounds. Its huge herds of cattle make Australia a leading world producer of meat and dairy products. Enormous flocks of sheep, 120 million strong, whose ancestors were imported from France, Germany, and the United States, furnish 1/4 of all the wool in the world, some $500 million worth every year. Sydney, Australia's largest city, a modern metropolis of 1.5 million, is the site of what Australians call the greatest fair on earth. And it might be, with its 1.25 million visitors, its vast exhibits, its enthusiastic junior farmers like America's 4-H groups, and its magnificently bred animals of every kind. When democracy was threatened in 2 world wars, Australia responded without hesitation. Australians flocked to the colors from all over their continent in 1939 to join Britain and France against Nazi Germany. They distinguished themselves immeasurably in Africa, in Europe, and in the Pacific. After Japan attacked Pearl Harbor, seized the Philippines and Singapore, Australia became a vast base for American troops as the two nations joined forces to defeat the common enemy. General Douglas MacArthur set up headquarters on Australian soil in March 1942. Today, Australian troops share in the Allied occupation of Japan. When the war in Korea began, Australia's Prime Minister Menzies flew to Washington to pledge aid to the UN and the U.S. Aussie air squadrons went into action in Korea only a few days after America's and were followed by naval and ground units. A great Australian air hero, Wing Commander Spence, was decorated by America's General Stratemeyer. Later, he was killed in action in Korea. Australia's capital is the new and beautiful city of Canberra. Like Washington, D.C., it's a federal territory. The city was designed by an American, Walter Burley Griffin. Australia's parliament, patterned after Britain's and America's, is composed of senators and representatives elected by popular vote. Members of opposing parties sit on opposite sides of the chamber. Education in Australia is free and compulsory, with private and religious schools supplementing public institutions, as in our own country. These are the children of a democracy. Their fathers are clerks, storekeepers, government workers, farmers, businessmen of Australia. They're a lot like us. Like American youth, they love sports. Cricket, rugby, and Australia's own brand of football are their favorites. Melbourne is Australia's second city, capital of the state of Victoria, and until 1927, capital of the entire Commonwealth. Younger than most American cities, it has an old world air. The Shrine of Remembrance marks Australia's reverence for her men who have died for democracy. Melbourne University has a normal enrollment of 4,000. Its student body has doubled since World War II under a veterans' law, much like our American GI Bill of Rights. Melbourne's department stores and shops displaying native and American products are reminiscent also of Australia's sentimental and material ties to England. Only 50 years ago, these self-reliant people became a nation and a stalwart friend and ally to other democracies. 8,000 miles away in the Pacific is America's good neighbor, a great free country, Australia.
There you go. Lots of news. Thanks again for tuning in today. It was a special day. Our 1234th episode. But only if you really think that saying 1, 2, 3, 4 is special. But it's special because you were there. And thanks so much for watching. We will be back again tomorrow. If you like what you saw, you can certainly donate to AV Geeks via the Super Thanks button, go into ko-fi.com/avgeeks or patreon.com/avgeeks. Those are great ways to support us, and specifically to help pay for rental storage, which we are paying about $1,800 a month for. So there you go. We'll be back again tomorrow. What is tomorrow, Wednesday? What is today, Tuesday? Who knows? Anyways, it's great seeing everyone. If you happen to be in the Raleigh area, I am doing a screening at the library, at the D.H. Hill Library this is going to be an odd time. This is 4:30 at first floor D.H. Hill near the coffee shop. We'll be watching a film called Two New Horizons, and we'll have an expert who will be talking about the future of cities. And this is a film that's talking about the future of the city circa 1939. So if you're around, come on by. It's free. Anyhow, we'll be back again tomorrow, and we will see you soon. Everybody take care.